Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to our webinar today. We are going to be talking about aligning your spending with your values, and sort of the different influences of how our values and social impacts and that kind of thing can change how we choose to interact and spend money. We are very excited to be bringing this one to you all here today. Let me do a little introduction here before we get into the content of today's presentation. So my name is Ty Koppelson, and I'm here with my boss, Jen Fries. We're from the Harvard Federal Credit Union's Community Engagement Team. And if you're wondering why you should listen to us, we are actually certified credit union financial counselors. So we know a little bit at least about what we're talking about here today, and we're very excited to be bringing you this content. Before we get really into the talking about the values, I do just want to make sure I talk a little bit about not-for-profit banking and the difference between a credit union and a bank, because this is one of the #1 questions we always get asked when we do different workshops and presentations is, what's the difference between a credit union and a bank? So credit unions are not-for-profit banking. This separates us from sort of the big banks like Bank of America, Citizens Bank, things like that, because they have shareholders. They have to make a profit, and we are not-for-profit, which basically means that we as a financial institution, we do everything that the big banks do. For example, we do checking accounts, savings accounts, loans, credit cards, all that stuff. But the profit that we would make, we actually reinvest it back into our community and to our members in a lot of different ways. We have generally better rates than most of those big banks. We do a lot of fee waivers and stuff like that. A main example is that if you have an account with us, you have free access to ATMs nationwide, which basically we just refund any ATM fees you would get, which is pretty cool. And even though we are a little bit smaller of a footprint, we have all sorts of very convenient things like branch sharing with other credit unions. We have really great online banking and mobile app services, all that sort of stuff. So we always give back to our community in a lot of different ways. And all of our members are actually partial owners in the credit union itself, which is pretty cool. They can vote on decisions and stuff like that that are made about the institution. So that's just a little bit of background for you, and why it would make sense to go with a credit union over a bank.
And
Sorry.
I think that's a value for a lot of people right now that people are looking for is that local ownership and
Yes.
local control by the members. So I think, we're glad that you're here and able to share with you that this is available to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the ways that we give back is being able to do financial education services such as this. So thank you all so much for being here. We really appreciate you coming. All right, so for today's agenda, we're going to talk about a number of different things. Primarily, what influences our spending habits? How do our values come into play when it comes to spending and that sort of thing? And then we're going to provide some tips for aligning our spending habits with our values and how we can make better use of our values and our attitudes and beliefs, and how that can influence either negatively or positively, hopefully, our spending habits. All right, so to start with, we want to talk a little bit about what are spending habits. I would actually like to invite all of you today to, if you can, use the Q&A feature. We are in webinar mode, so the Zoom chat will be disabled. But if you can use the Q&A feature, we'd love to hear from you. What are some of your spending habits? These can be good or not so great. And we'll provide a couple of examples ourselves. For example, I know that I sometimes am influenced by impulsive shopping. There's definitely been at least once or twice when a targeted ad on Facebook got me to buy a t-shirt at around 1 in the morning just because I saw how great it was, that kind of thing. So that's perhaps a little bit more of a negative spending habit, but there are some positive ones as well. Such as budgeting or making sure that you save money from every paycheck, generally like automatically, that kind of thing. So if you have any spending habits that you know yourself are prone to, I would love if you could put those in the Q&A, just because we also want to make sure that we are working with you and helping address any particular sort of habits, whether negative or positive, that you would like us to kind of mention, and how we can tie that into aligning those things with our values.
Yeah, and I know for me, for instance, I do have a habit of saving money every paycheck. However, it has to be automated for me, so otherwise I will tend to spend it. And so it just automatically, whether it be direct deposit or an automatic withdrawal as soon as my paycheck comes in, to go into my savings. And that's been an important habit for me that has helped me, keep check on my spending habits too.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's great. All right, yeah, we have
Thank you. We're seeing some
a couple
fruits
examples
coming
here.
in here.
Yep, yep. So planning for vacations and gift giving, that's a big one. We're going to talk a little bit later about like the social impacts of peers and family and gift giving and how that influences how we spend money. So that's a good one. Looking at the price tag first and choosing the cheapest item. That's a good one. I do like that. We're going to talk a little bit about that too. And this is also, I really like that somebody said philanthropy, recently started saving as well. So yeah, being able to make sure that you have some financial freedom to be able to like make donations and that kind of thing is definitely important, especially when it comes to your values of wanting to make sure that you give back in ways that you can and how you can help. That'll help influence is very important.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a really important one for me. And I
Mhm.
do have a budget roughly for philanthropy every year. I also make donations. This is not charity per se, but I like to donate to women running for office.
Mhm.
So that's been something that, it's a priority of mine and something that I've set aside a little money for every year.
That's great. And that's a great example of a value you have that's true to yourself and how that will influence your spending one way or the other. And making sure that you can make sure you use that in a way that's going to make you feel that financial freedom.
So
So,
I love this one. This member supports small businesses, local businesses.
oh, that's very good.
Over big box stores, even if it costs a little more.
Mhm.
I totally with you on that. And also, I know that here in Cambridge, for those who are local, we do have Cambridge Local First, and there's some other groups that can help you connect with local businesses that you might not know about.
Yeah,
So,
that's great.
yeah.
That's great. Thank you guys so much for sharing some of your habits, and we will continue to talk about how we can make best use of those. All right, so what influences our spending habits? There are a lot of different things. We're going to get into that now, but we're going to break it down a little bit first. So values are a big one, which is probably why we're here. It's right in the title of the presentation, how you can, how your values impact your spending and how you can make better use of that. So this is going to talk about different things that can be influenced by a lot of different things, self-concept, social factors. We'll get into that a little bit more later. But the important part is that values can influence how we spend money. So what are values versus attitudes? This is actually quite important. So values are sort of these deep-seated beliefs that we have. They are kind of shaped by our upbringing and by our different factors. They can be influenced by family, peers, school. They're firmly held beliefs, and we tend to stick to them because they tend to be like a core part of our personality. And they are very difficult to change once you have them, which is not a bad thing. It's just sort of these things that influence how we do a lot of different things in our life, whether that's consciously or subconsciously. It can impact different ways that we interact with the world.
And we're not trying to change
Correct.
anyone's values. I think that's important to say.
Yes.
So during this presentation, we may say a little bit about our own values. They may or may not be the same as yours. That's okay. You can still take away from this a self-awareness of what your own values are and how you want to express them through your spending. And I think that's important to say is that everyone has different values.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the number one thing to take from this is that being self-aware about these things and how it impacts you is the number one way to make sure you can use them in a way that's helpful to you. It's just making sure you're aware of these things and being mindful about them. So that's what values are. Now, what are attitudes? Attitudes are sort of our current behavior when it comes to the world around us and how we interact with it. So these tend to reflect our current life situations. They can be changed more easily, but they are shaped by our values and our beliefs. So basically, the value is the core thing that then affects our attitude around different life circumstances as we go. And then the attitudes tend to lead us to an emotional reaction to something, which can then influence how we spend money.
Yeah, and I can give a little example of this I have a personal value that I try for environmental reasons. I try to not drive very much. I try to take public transit or walk. And also for my health, I think it's important for me to walk and my mental health. I feel better when I walk.
Yeah.
However, sometimes I'm in a time crunch about something or something is going on for me and I'm like, oh, and I just kind of jettison it because there's some other emotional stuff going on and I decide, oh, I just need to drive. And so being more self-aware, making sure I'm planning so that I can express my values, I think is something that is good for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And to kind of like break that down even a little bit more. So in this instance, Jen's value is like really wanting to make sure for environmental reasons and health reasons and all that stuff, doing more walking instead of driving. But, if perhaps she's running late or something like that, that could lead to this negative attitude about walking and instead create this sense of like needing to find a quicker way there, whether that's driving or perhaps even taking an Uber or something like that. And that is a way that our sort of attitude and different thing can create a negative emotional reaction related to not feeling like they're able to walk, and can influence a spending habit of perhaps needing to purchase like an Uber or some other sort of transportation. So,
Right. And so it can be bad for my wallet as well as
Mhm.
potentially bad for, my, impact how I'm expressing my values. So
Yes.
sometimes it takes a little planning to make sure that we're aligning these.
Absolutely. And so making sure you're self-aware of those things is going to be really important to how to make sure we have a better emotional reaction and a better influence on spending. So we're going to do one more example because not all emotional reactions are like the negative sort. In this example, let's say that this kind lady that we see here, his name is Debbie, and Debbie values stability and peace in her life. Because of stability being a core value for her, she makes sure that she automatically adds $50 from each of her paychecks to her savings account. So by doing this, she actually has a positive emotional reaction when she sees her savings account increase and feels comfort knowing that she'll be covered in financial emergencies. So the core attitude of valuing stability can lead to an attitude of, oh, I need to make sure that I'm automatically saving. And that attitude can lead to a positive emotional reaction and seeing that go up. So there's a lot of different ways. And again, being self-aware is very important to taking a value, turning it into an attitude, and our immediate emotional reactions, which generally tend to impact how we choose to spend money in the moment.
Yeah. And so in this situation, Debbie is really driving instead of having things happen to her. She's decided to make a choice that allows her to have that positive emotional reaction where her values and spending are aligned. So
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about our own personal values and what that means to us. So I would like you all to take a moment to maybe try to think about some of your own values. I know it can be a little tricky because it's kind of hard to break ourselves down into pieces in terms of like values and that kind of thing if you haven't thought about it a lot. But there are a lot of different things that could be values and a lot of different things that you can kind of think to yourself in a way to like kind of help determine how you think, what you think might be important to you. And then we can help try to break down how that might influence your attitudes and your behaviors. So
feel free to drop those into the Q&A.
Absolutely.
It's because we're in webinar mode, we're using the Q&A feature of Zoom. So if you have something that you'd like to share with us, and meanwhile, I can share one of mine, which is that when I set up my Roth IRA, however many years ago, I chose to use a social index investing fund. And that's because I have some personal religious values about not investing in weapons manufacturing, and they do affirmatively invest in certain things like solar panels, et cetera, et cetera. So those are my particular values. That's not investing advice, obviously. I just want to make that clear. This is just my personal way that I've decided. And you'll hear me say this again and again, I'm a set it and forget it person. So it's been really nice to set that and know that I'm expressing that value without me having to constantly do something to make that happen. It's part of one of the choices I made. So you may want to make big picture choices like that. And then there may be day-to-day things. So I think you have an example of a day-to-day,
absolutely.
everyday thing.
Yeah. So one big value for me, which I feel like is maybe a little bit different than some of the traditional values a lot of people talk about, is I value spending my money where I spend the most time in my life. So when it comes to day-to-day or big purchases, I know a lot of people, and including me originally, can feel a lot of anxiety around making big purchases or like knowing where to spend your money once you've saved it up. Buying big purchase regret, that kind of thing can definitely happen. So I really did a lot of this self-introspection a while back when I was like, okay, like how do I choose to spend the money that I have and what do I improve in my life? And what I really broke it down to is like, okay, I spend a lot of my time doing certain things, and I really want to make sure that the stuff that I interact with when I'm doing those things is a good, high quality version of that. So a good example is a bed. You spend what, like a third of your life or more sleeping, hopefully. And in that case, you want to make sure that you have like a really nice bed that you can sleep well in. It suits your needs. You have nice, comfortable things. You are able to fall asleep quickly, you feel good, you feel comfortable, you feel confident with your bed. Another thing I do a lot, I spend a lot of time on my cell phone and I play a lot of video games, things like that. And so I have chosen to sort of invest my spending in making sure I have good versions of the things that I really like spending a lot of time doing. Because to me, I don't want to, it's not a regret to have a nice, high quality thing that I know I'm going to spend a lot of time with, right? Like if I'm spending a lot of time on my phone, it's maybe not a great phone, it's always lagging, it's not doing a good job, then I'm just going to be frustrated and I'm not going to feel like I've invested well the money where I invest my time.
Yeah, I love that. And I'd never heard it articulated that way until I heard you talk about it. And then it made so much sense to me. And when I thought about, people on this webinar may be the flip side of me, and, maybe they drive a lot. And maybe that's important to you and feel like you want to spend some money, whether it be having the exact car that you want, or just, stuff like I get my car washed and vacuum it out regularly because I'm in my car all the time doing pick up and drop off or
Yeah.
whatever it may be. So that may be a value that you have and something where you're spending your time there. So you want to spend your money there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely making sure if you do need to or prefer to spend a lot of time driving, you're spending a lot of time there. So make sure you have a nice car, make sure you have a nice version of that thing, or maybe a hybrid or something so you can help save on gas, that kind of thing. That is absolutely a way that you can take a value and turn it into a place where you can feel positive about your spending habits when it comes to that value.
Yeah, and I think we have some in the Q&A too.
Oh, great. Yeah,
scroll down.
Absolutely. Let's take a look here. So,
oh, nice. Fairness is my top value. They think it's really important to make sure, for instance, if they're going out with friends, that it not be just something where it's split in a way that isn't fair. So thinking about that. And that's probably something you want to make sure you're communicating well with your friends ahead of time. So whenever I'm doing shared vacations with friends or things like that, just making sure that no one is surprised by a bill, like, hey, we're going to do it this way. Hey, we're going to do it that way. Because different friends will have different sort of traditions, and you want to make sure everybody has the same expectations. Like you might be with a group that the tradition is buy a round, and everybody does that. And you might not. So the person might be like, hey, I just bought a round, and then you went up and bought your own drink. Like, what's going on there? So just making sure that you're communicating with your friends.
Absolutely. And I think one of the big things, we'll talk a little bit more about social and peer influences and stuff like that in a little while, but just making sure you're communicating well, sort of how you need to change or do something when it comes to like the social impact of that and how it's going to influence you and your own spending is very important, because you want to make sure that you're on the same page, that you're with the people, your friends, whoever it is, know what to expect, right? That's really important. So
and several people talking about environmental choices or ethically made, so that the labor is not being exploited on the thing that they're buying. So kind of knowing about that, there are different things that you can look for, certifications, whether that be on your coffee or on your clothing, that are going to tell you certain kinds of ethical certifications that are external, not just the company saying it about themselves, because we know that greenwashing exists and people will just say that they're great and green, but you might want to look for some of those external modifiers to let you know. We also have people who are donating to things that they consider important, like hospitals or educational institutions. And yeah, I'm right there with you. And also Harvard FCU is right there with you, donating to many of the local hospitals in the area and going out and volunteering. We'll be volunteering at the Jimmy Fund pretty soon. Excited about that. And so yes, making sure that we're aligning our spending in that way. But I go ahead.
Oh, I was just say one more shout out I did want to say is I see somebody mentioned quality over quantity when it comes to making significant purchases, making sure that you pay maybe a little bit more to make sure that something is well made, ethically sourced, that kind of thing, which is great. And I think that fits really well hand in hand with spending good money where you spend a lot of time, right? So making sure you get a nice quality version of a thing that you know you're going to spend a lot of your time using or interacting with is really never a waste of money, I will say. But
thank you, and keep them coming. I think these are all great examples.
Absolutely. Thank you again. All right, so let's do a little recap here. So we have our core values, which then lead to sort of the attitudes we have in the day-to-day, which then tends to lead to an emotional reaction, which then can lead to a behavior in the moment and how we interact with that emotional reaction. And these can either drive or deter you from your goals. So what our plan hopefully here is today is to make sure that you are aware of these things, make sure that with this breakdown and how you can apply it to different situations, that you are being aware of it and hopefully finding a way to create a better habit to drive you towards a goal rather than deter you from one. All right, so next, other influences in our spending habits outside of values are going to be social factors. Now, we started talking about this a little bit. There are a lot of different social factors that influence our spending habits. Starting with friends, family, and peer groups, this is a big one. We talked somewhat about, different coworkers going out for lunch, and how if you are trying to save money by not going out to eat as much and trying to bring food from home and that kind of thing, which is a great way to start budgeting better and saving money, because eating out food is like one of the biggest sort of like excess spending habits that we've found is a social factor for sure. And finding different ways to speak with your coworkers or whoever it is that you are trying to do a different plan here rather than being peer pressured into always going out to eat. So as we talked about, communicating and like sort of talking with them and setting up expectations on what you're trying to do is like a really big way. And that doesn't have to be like, oh no, like I don't want to go out to eat, or I can't go out to eat. You may not want to say like, oh, I can't afford it, or I don't want to spend the money, but there's a lot of different ways you can kind of like have that conversation without sort of either feeling like you have to socially sacrifice or feeling like you have to spend more money, right? So things you could say might be something like, thank you so much for the invitation. I won't be able to join you today, but I made lunch, but I'm really looking forward to eating that lunch. Or just something like, oh, I just ate, but I'd love to come for the company. Or I won't be able to come today, but I'd love to join you guys next time. When do you think you might go out again so I can like plan accordingly? So, there's a lot of ways you can kind of have that conversation and without having to feel like you're stuck in a hard place of either needing to sacrifice socially or financially, right?
Yeah, and I think one example for me was when I was pregnant, and before I wanted to tell people, and my coworkers, sometimes they would be going out for drinks, and I would just be like, yes, I would love to go out for drinks with you. But then I would just go over to the bartender and be like, I need a seltzer with a lime in it. And they usually give that to you for free. So it's also a budgeting thing. And then I'd be like, I have my thing, it's great. Yeah, so you can just be conscious of where do you want to show up? Where do you want to spend your money? You don't have to just go along with the plan that someone else sets for you. You can decide that you're going to kind of go a little bit different way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do just want to talk real quickly also about family can be another big social pressure, especially when it comes to around the holidays and gift giving. Now, this isn't necessarily always a negative thing, I do want to shout out that somebody mentioned that spending money on family and friends and hosting and entertaining is an important value to them, which I think is great. I really like that. Gift giving is a big love language for me as well. I really love to give gifts to my family and to my wife and all that. So I think it is important that if that is a core value of you and you really do like to, spend a lot of money on getting high quality gifts for people, that you're just aware of that and making sure that to navigate the social setting of that as well, that you communicate, right? You speak with your family and you communicate around like, oh, whether or not you do want to be doing a lot of gift giving or perhaps trying to save money by not doing as much, depending on your own value with that. There are different ways you can have that conversation, right? So for example, you could introduce something like, maybe for gift giving this year, we could try to do a round robin or a Secret Santa type of thing where we each give somebody else one gift, which might be able to put a little bit more effort or a little bit more funds into rather than getting everybody a bunch of gifts, which can be a pretty big, spending impact on you. But if that's something you really enjoy, then making sure you also have that conversation with your family about being like, I really like to give this amount of gifts. I know that might not be what everybody needs or can easily have the same value of, but there are two different sides to that. And just basically thinking about where your value is going to be on that and making sure you communicate with your family around what works for you and making sure you're aware of what might be different about what works for them.
And we do have a whole presentation about this budgeting for the holidays on our YouTube. So if this is something, this is a great time right now when the holidays, a lot of them have just ended. And you may want to be thinking about having that conversation now so that people who do their shopping ahead of time aren't surprised if you want to switch up how you do it. Like, hey, maybe we just want to buy for the younger generation this year and not exchange among ourselves or whatever it may be.
Yeah, absolutely. So
So
just
check
finding
that out on our YouTube.
yes, finding a different way to navigate those social situations can be really impactful on how you're going to end up doing spending habits for sure. So next is going to be social class. So this is one where you feel like you have a certain social, economic, or educational status that impacts what you feel like you need to spend money on. I think a great example of this is feeling like you need particular brand name products, whether that's clothing or like headphones or a certain type of cell phone, like always getting the newest cell phone, that kind of thing. Whether or not you feel like it has a conscious impact on your social standing with your friends or your peer group or just you as a person. This can be really a subconscious thing where you're like, oh, I didn't realize it, but I always felt like I needed to get the newest phone because I needed that sort of feeling like I'm keeping up with the times, and that kind of thing can really influence our spending habits in a lot of different ways. And just making sure you're aware of that and doing some research, I think, is a really big one. Like I used to try to get like certain brands of headphones, that kind of thing. But then like I did some research into what's actually a high quality product, because I was like, oh, I'm spending a lot of time with this. Like, what's actually going to be like the best quality and like extended life for this product? Found out that the name brands I was getting were actually much worse quality than some of these other ones, which were more affordable. So yeah, that kind of thing. So for example, Beats by Dre, not the best quality headphones in terms of audio quality or just general make and model. So stuff like that can influence us, especially subconsciously. And speaking of things that can influence us subconsciously, social media. This is a big one. There are literal influencers out there whose jobs are to take a product or something on social media and tell you how great it is, tell you why you need it, tell you all this stuff, because they're going to earn money from that. And their whole job is to try to influence you to spend money and to do things that you are going to impact your spending in big ways, especially if you're susceptible to that. So there are a lot of different things. Being aware of this is very important. And I think Jen has a great way, as a great little tip about this.
Yeah, so one of the things that I started doing, I realized I was being affected by social media advertising and maybe spending more than I wanted to sometimes on random things I saw on Instagram. So I started following some people who are de-influencers. So that you can search for this on different platforms. And the particular ones I was following are people who are, they're knowledgeable about fashion. They're people who have maybe their master's in fine arts in fashion or that kind of thing. And they would talk about certain brands and say, like, look at this, the stitching is really bad. Like, so this is something that is putting itself forward as a luxury brand, but is it really holding up? Like, you're investing big money maybe, and are you getting like real quality or long-term? So I definitely recommend looking for de-influencers. There probably are in all different categories of these people who are like, hey, is this really worth your while? And I find them really helpful. A lot of times they're actually literally talking about something I just saw an ad for. And I'm also a big proponent, as similar to the auto savings, I have auto set for myself only a certain amount of time that I can be on different social media platforms. So it never happens that at 1 a.m. I'm on those. I've already used up my 15 minutes for the day at lunch hour or something like that. So I don't get back on them. So yeah.
That's good. That's great. So yeah, a lot of different things we can set up to help ourselves be better influenced in different ways to impact how we are going to actually end up spending that money with that emotional reaction that we have to these things. All right, and then this is another one that I think people aren't quite as aware of, but self-concept. So self-concept is actually a really big one that is more of a sort of subconscious thing, I think, for a lot of people. But basically, this is our set beliefs about ourselves and how this influences our behaviors and how we spend money and how we interact with the world in a lot of ways. This is actually huge for me. So this can be things like, oh, I think that my self-concept of myself is I'm very smart, or I'm a great friend, or I'm good with money. And this can impact how we interact with all sorts of different things. So I am a very theatrical person. I majored in acting in school, and I have this very self-concept of myself, especially in the past, where I'm a good friend. I love being social. I don't like to miss out on things. FOMO used to be very big with me because I was like, I always want to be there with my friends. I want to be having these social things. I want to be experiencing things. And so what I would do is I would always want to go to every social event. I would always want to go out for drinks. I would always want to go out for food. I would always want to go out to dinner. I would be setting up these events myself, always making sure that like we were hanging out with friends, we were doing stuff and all this stuff. And there was times when like I would just be like really exhausting myself financially or emotionally or energy levels. And at one point, is my best friend literally like sat me down and was like, Ty, you are a person that I think really values your own space and personal time, but you don't ever give yourself this time. And I was like, what? So it was maybe because I was an actor, but I had this idea of this character of myself that I needed to be portraying. And in doing so, I really was, trapping myself almost in these behaviors and these attitudes, and how I ended up spending money all the time on these different things that I thought I needed to. And this made me do impulsive purchasing way more often. It made me be like, oh, like I don't need to save as much money because I'm somebody who values experiences over like savings. And that's all well and good, but it's really important to make sure that you have moderation and to make sure that you are doing both, So this really helped me kind of like get a handle on how I was spending money so recklessly and finding different ways to break out of this sort of, I guess, box of a self-concept that I had for myself and find different ways to be more aware. Again, as we say, it's always very important to have self-awareness over these different things and how they are influencing you. And so I helped me set up some better habits for sure.
Yeah, and I think your self-concept sometimes people have negative ones, like they might have a self-concept like I'm a hot mess. And then
Yes.
you do live up to or live down to your self-concept. So sometimes just kind of letting yourself know, hey, I'm a saver. I'm someone who saves for the ups and downs of life or whatever, can help you sort of change. You can change your self-concept a little bit. And I think that your example is a great one of like someone helping you reflect on who you really are and what your needs are, is very helpful.
Yeah, there's like another negative one, like, oh, well, I'm a spender. I just can't help myself. Like me, I was like, oh, I'm an experiencer. I just want to do these experiences. It's just who I am. Like, I don't need, like, I can't change it, but that's not true. You can always change things. You can always work on setting better habits for yourself. The most important part is to come around to a different thinking about that concept. You can help yourself. You're not just a hot mess. There are ways you can improve these things. And it's important to just take that first step. Being aware is always the first step towards changing that behavior. All right. So do your money behaviors align with your self-concept? Talking about this is a helpful way. So for example, you can recognize your self-concept around money, like, oh, I'm a saver, or, oh, I'm an experiencer, that kind of thing. I'm a spender. I like to do those types of things. And then you have to make a conscious effort to start trying to change that self-concept a little bit, to be able to come around to having a different way of thinking and not just resigning yourself to, oh, like I can't go to that concert because I'm a saver and I already saved my money and I can't afford it, right? Sometimes it is important to not lose out on an experience that you really want to have just because it doesn't quite fit your exact equation of how much you're saving money, right? Like it's important to know that these are both sides of a coin, where saving is important, but also experiencing things in your life and like going on a trip or going to do something with friends, going to a concert, something like that. As long as you're doing it in moderation and you are being intelligent about both sides of this, it's important to make sure that you're experiencing those types of things as well. Saving money is important, and making sure that you're budgeting well so that when you save money, you have some money to spend on these types of experiences can be really important. So just making sure that you don't just resign yourself to one side of that, and the self-concept of, oh, like I can't change it. I'm this way. That's it, is really important. So
yeah. And I think money can be a source of stress, particularly when you have a cognitive dissonance about, a mismatch between your values and your spending. So hopefully this is helping us think a little bit more about how we can reduce the stress around money.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So advertisements is another one. This one's pretty obvious. We all know companies pay millions and millions of dollars just to get ads out to you because they work, And so it's important to have a strong sense of identity when it comes to ads. We are constantly being overwhelmed. They're everywhere. And one thing that you can do is try to find ways to separate yourself from ads when you can, right? You can do things like set up ad blockers on your internet browser, stuff like that, making sure that you're just being aware of how these things are influencing us. It's a lot like the social media influencers, right? Where we're told how great a project is, or where it's thrown in front of our face all the time, and finding different ways to research and make sure you know that you're buying a quality product, or making sure that you are not spending money just because you saw something. I should have said that to myself when I was purchasing that shirt on Facebook. But the point is like, another thing I like to say about this is that there are, what was I going to say? There are different things that influences how we spend money, and just making sure we're being aware of those.
Yeah, I mean, I have an example of this that I definitely have had times in my life where, especially when my child was young, and I think I was very sleep deprived. And so you see things and they're supposed to help sleep, right? For your child. And suddenly I am buying something that I didn't even know existed, 10 minutes before, but like you'll impulsively do things sometimes because of advertising. And so just kind of learning to have that self-awareness, like, hey, am I clicking spend on something that I didn't even know existed? That's one of my standards now. And I'm like, if I'm doing that, I set it aside. If that thing really is important, I will remember that shopping cart. I can't tell you how many internet shopping carts I walked away from that, and then, they're trying to desperately follow me across all platforms. Like, didn't you really want this, baby teething ring that was really going to get your baby to sleep or whatever? And just being aware that if I didn't know about it before, maybe I don't even really need it, but it's been created in me by advertising.
Yeah. And real quick, I just want to hit on also like being motivated to spend money due to like scarcity or like sales or limited time things can be a big one, especially because like a lot of ads are like, oh, 50% off. And you got to really think about how if something's 50% off and you spend that money, you're not saving 50%, you are actually spending 50% if it's not something you needed or were going to buy anyway for a purpose, right? And so just making sure you're not being motivated to spend just because of a sort of limited time thing or just because of an advertisement you saw, and making sure you think about like, oh, is this something I actually needed or used, or do I have a purpose in really purchasing this, right? So being aware of ads and figuring out how to navigate them, how to even like limit how often you see them, can be a really important way to help navigate those things. So we're going to now break these down into our tips for changing your spending habits and aligning them with your values. Some of these like sort of core bullet points that we think are really important. So one big tip is to pay yourself first. This is one Jen does all the time, which is automatically transfer money as soon as you get paid, or even have direct deposit be immediately broken down into your savings account, as well as your sort of checking expense account. Is a huge one. This will make sure that you're automatically saving money right away. And once you pay yourself first, you don't have to be like, oh, whatever's left over, I'll save. You're already saving. And that way you can feel a little bit better also about spending whatever money is left over. You've known that you've still hit that bucket of saving money.
And the other example of this, in addition to just my traditional savings account, is that I do have my retirement money come out before I see my paycheck. Same thing, same idea. And one of the tips that we often give in these workshops, but I can't like say it enough, is when you're getting a raise, instead of having that lifestyle creep of just spending more money, I try and put the bulk of it, depending on inflation, you may or may not be able to do that. But say I'm getting a 5% raise, I might put 4% into increased retirement savings if I'm not at the maximum yet. And 1% to just allow myself to have a little more fun or whatever. And again, that's a choice. You could choose to say, well, half my raise will go for more fun stuff because I'm at a time in my life when I want to be doing that. And half will go to, or whatever the percentage is that works for you, but just being conscious of those things, of paying yourself first, whether it be for your retirement savings or for your regular savings.
Yeah. And I think that's one thing I also like to talk about is when we think about savings, a lot of times there's sort of this, not negative impact, but this impact of like, oh, I'm just saving money to just sit somewhere, whether for an emergency or for this like future thing that who knows when it's going to happen, or retirement, right? Like, am I ever going to actually retire? Like, it feels like you're kind of putting the money away and don't get it. But like savings is actually not just that. Savings could also be for a big experience or a trip or something like that. It can be for fun things. And so
you're saving for a fun one, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I'm saving for my honeymoon right now, going to Japan actually next month, which is so soon. I've been saving for a while, and that it's felt good to see that money go up. But paying yourself first can help you make sure you have the money for those types of fun things, as well as future endeavors, as well as emergencies, as well as doing things like supporting valuable like universities, donating, that kind of thing, that are core values you have, and being able to make sure that you can afford these different things, right? So that's really important. And right in hand that is learning to love savings. Like I said, savings is not just for unfun things or for this big pile of money you never think you're going to actually ever get to use or to spend. When I was a kid, I found a way to learn to love this, where my brother and I really wanted a Nintendo GameCube, the newest gaming system. And our parents were like, look, we just can't, it's not in the cards at the moment. But they encouraged us to start saving our own money for that. And so we actually, whether or not that was at their beckoning or not, we got like a jar, like a big plastic jar, and we just started getting any cash we could find into there, putting it in a jar. And it became this really fun thing where we would like, anytime we got allowance, we would put it in there. We'd try to find things like doing a little bake sale or like selling lemonade or whatever to get a little extra cash put in there. We'd have family come visit and they would see the jar because we'd be so excited about it that some of the family would like donate some money to it. So like it became this really fun game of like, we found a way to really love and have this great like sense of saving can be for this really fun thing. And finally, when we had enough and we like broke open the jar and we got able to go get that thing, which we were able to do because there was like, we've always found ways to find a little bit more. And because it was so instilled in us, and our parents, I think, help support that by also giving us a little bit extra from time to time to put in there to instill in us this like, this is really fun. And this is a really great way. It's not just for like, oh, it's going to go to a college fund or something, you're never going to see it. It was for a fun thing. We found a way to make it fun. And from there, I think that's really helped me make sure that I am not just saving for the future, but also saving for fun. And that's important.
And if you're my age, actually having saved for my daughter's college was, I mean, I don't know if the saving itself was fun, but I did enjoy watching it go up. But spending that money that I did save now on her college is one of the most satisfying spending experiences of my life. So I have to say that, you know, that's a little deferred gratification. Obviously, it took many years to save up, but that's a core value I have to try and support my daughter's education and do as much as I could. Might not be able to pay the whole thing, but you know, so yeah, it depends where you are in your life, what's fun. That's really fun for me.
Yeah.
So,
And that's important, you know? So learning to love savings, it can be fun. And then another thing, purchase intentionally. So this goes in hand with the influencers and the advertisements and stuff like that. So when you see a product and you get influenced or feel impulsed to buy that product, this literally happened to me last week. We went to Costco and we saw that they had a big stuffed Pikachu. And both me and my wife's immediate reaction was, we want to buy that because it was actually quite affordable. And then we stopped for 2 seconds and we were like, will I use this? Do I need this? Where would this go in our house? And when we couldn't think of a single answer for where we would actually put it in our house for a good couple minutes, we were like, okay, maybe we don't spend money on this, right? And so thinking of anytime you're going to make a purchase, especially if it's something that you didn't already have an idea of something you needed, but you were influenced or you felt impulsed to want to get that, it's just good to think about like, do I have a purpose for this? Will this like really help me? Where will I put it? You know, that kind of thing sometimes can just really make sure that we are purchasing something with an intention of how we will be benefited by it.
I have a small house. So every time I buy something, my rule is 1 in, 2 out. So if I buy a book, that's fine, but I have to get rid of 2 books that I have because otherwise I can't seem to keep on top of it. So yeah.
Yeah. So that's another one. And this doesn't mean that I think this is great because this can be like, oh, I'm spending a lot of time with this thing. I want to get a better one. But if I do, is this going to be something that's going to actually improve sort of my time and my way of life and that kind of thing? And just making sure that you're thinking about that, especially if it's something that you didn't already have an idea for, that somehow you suddenly get influenced or feel an impulse about. All right, and then align with your values. This is our whole presentation. We've talked about this a lot, I think, but just like always making sure that, especially if you're thinking of sort of a big purchase or sort of something that you're going to spend a lot of money on, find a way to think about those values that we talked about earlier and think about the things that are important to you and making sure that when you're going to make a big purchase or you're going to buy a lot of presents for somebody or something like that, that you're going to feel like this is fulfilling a core purpose of your value, filling to something that's really important to you, and thinking about how that go backwards through the steps of like, oh, I have an emotional reaction about this thing. I have this behavior about wanting to spend money on this thing. So this is going to be an attitude that I had, which is going to then relate to my sort of core value. And I do this a lot, especially because I'm like, do I spend a lot of time with this thing? Is this going to be a purchase that I really enjoy making? Because that is one of the primary values that I have. But of course, there are other ones as well. Okay. And then create a layer of friction. This is actually a great thing. So we talked a little bit about using something like an ad blocker to block advertisements from coming up to you. But our other coworker on our team, Terrence, he takes this a step further by, for example, one thing is if you're going to do online shopping, don't save your card info on a platform, right? So that means oh, I saw something on Amazon or something on Facebook at 1 a.m. or whatever, that you are suddenly influenced to buy. But if you are in bed scrolling and you see something that you're like, oh, I really want that, but you got to go get your debit card to put in the information, your debit card's in your wallet and your wallet's in the other room or in your jacket pocket or something like that. You're going to have to get out of bed. You're going to have to go over there. You're going to have to get the card out. You're going to have to come back, put in the information manually. And something like that, creating that layer of friction might just actually stop you from being like, oh, you know what? That's more trouble than it's worth.
It totally works for me.
Yeah, it works really well. Another thing is that you can set up a savings account. This is what our coworker does, Terrence, in a different bank, in a different town than the one you live in, and you don't get a debit card or anything for that account. You literally have to go and get to that bank somehow during business hours in order to take any money out of there as a way to save money by creating, in this step, quite a big layer of friction between you and being able to take money from that specific savings as a backup for yourself or as something. This is especially good if you feel like you are really impacted by influences or impulses when it comes to just spending money a lot. So just things like that. There are different ways you can make it harder for yourself to spend money. And I think that is something that can be really helpful when it comes to just forcing yourself to take a step back from that influence. All right, and then get outside guidance. I got great news for you. All of you guys that are here are taking a step towards getting outside guidance on how you can help improve these habits by being here with our presentation today. Taking step, pre-committing this time to being here and learning about different ways you can align your spending with your values and how you can start to try to change some of these habits is a great way towards getting outside guidance, getting different ways to help. But there are a lot of other ways you can do this. You can reach out to a family member or a friend with this that can help, especially if you trust them and you feel like that they sort of have types of values or financial know-how when it comes to how you've seen them either save or spend money and this kind of thing. Just having that conversation with them. There's sort of this kind of social taboo sometimes about talking about money and how much you make and things like that. And, you want to make sure that that's something that you feel comfortable doing. But sometimes it can be really freeing to just have that conversation or just ask for help, especially when it comes to, if you have somebody in your life that you feel like is really good at doing those habits that you sometimes struggle with, is just asking them how they do it can be really, really helpful.
And then we also have a suggestion for you, I think, on our next slide.
Sure do.
So everyone on this webinar, whether or not you are a member of the credit union, you are eligible for free financial counseling from GreenPath. So if anyone here is really struggling with debt, credit, budgeting, you would like to talk to a certified HUD housing counselor or a student loan counselor, GreenPath is a nonprofit. They're our trusted partner. You can get free financial counseling from them, and you don't have to be in jeopardy to get counseling from them. You might also just be planning for something big in your future, and you want to figure out, how can I save for this down payment for a house? I want to be a homeowner someday. What's my path? GreenPath can help set you up, help you with a budget, and help you figure out how to get from here to there. So we do recommend them highly, and want you to know that you can take advantage of them. You can share this with your friends and family too, if you want. So please take advantage of GreenPath.
Yeah, and as Jen said, you don't even have to be a member with us. If you go and you say that you were referred by the Harvard Federal Credit Union, even if you're not a member, the service will be free for you. So it's really great. We always say, if you want to take these concepts and learn how to apply it to your own direct situation, this is definitely the next best step to take, is go to GreenPath and let them know. But we also have a lot of great other different tools and things that are part of our membership, including Savvy Money. This is a great tool directly within our online banking here at the Harvard FCU. It gives daily updates, real-time alerts, personalized tips, special offers to help you with your credit. You can check your credit score. It's just a tool directly on our online banking you can make great use of, and it's completely free. It's just an awesome thing on there. It has no impact on your credit score, but it can give you your credit score and then also give you tips on next steps you can take to help directly improve your own credit score. It's very cool. It's an awesome new tool that we have. We're always looking for different tools and different ways that we can utilize our online platform and services to really make sure that the member's having the best experience. So this is another great feature that we have here at the credit union.
And particularly good if you're gonna be using a loan soon, you wanna get a home equity loan, or
Mhm.
you're gonna be getting a parent loan for college or whatever. Do what you can to improve your credit score between now and then.
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very helpful. All right, so we do have just a brief disclaimer here. This is not investment, legal, or tax advice. We do these presentations for educational purposes only. Of course, everybody's own unique situation is going to be unique to them, and how they can apply these things is going to be different for everybody. So we are just trying to help generally educate. If there are great different ways you can find different types of advice out there for investments and stuff like that. GreenPath is a great first step towards how to apply it to your own individual situation, but we are not tax, legal, or investment advisors. Okay, but let's keep in touch. We here at the Credit Union, as we've always kind of said, we love to keep in touch with you. We have our email box here. Please reach out to us at any time. If you have a question, or you are trying to figure out, you want to just provide us feedback or any sort of follow-up or anything that we can do to help, we love to be a part of our community and are always looking for different ways to improve. We have a survey that you should be receiving after this presentation that we always read all of the results of directly. We're always looking to improve and stuff like that. So please always reach out to us if you feel like you have questions or feedback or anything at all. We are really approachable, and we have all sorts of different blogs and resources on our website as well.
Thank you for taking time on your lunch hour to join
Thank you,
us for
thank you.
this. We
Mhm.
appreciate you, and hope to hear from some of you, and that you can avail yourself of some of these resources.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all so much. Again, this presentation is going to be available on our YouTube as well. So if you were like, oh, I know that he was talking about different impulses, but I don't remember the exact specifics, you can always go on there and you'll be able to watch it and refresh yourself at any time. So thank you again so much. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you all so much for coming today.
Thanks.